Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Cattle are all up front. Man, that was hard to say. Cattle are all up front right now, begging for grain. So I just left them there. I decided I would come back here to take a look around. Cattle on this farm really like to hang out in this ditch right here. There's a few good set of trees over here. Maybe a dozen trees over here, 2 dozen trees over here. These trees, they all got their limbs cut off of them, and so these cattle, they like to rub their head, or rub their necks, rub their bodies on these trees. Got about a half dozen of them that they can do that on over here. They like to hang out in this area. They like to walk back and forth in this area, and so I walked back over here to see how the grass is doing, to make sure that they got enough to eat. And that's what I did this morning. Got a I don't know what this is, but I know that there was a I'll actually have to go and make sure that this ain't some kind of a poison oak or something. I may have to spray this. I've been thinking, well, on my way up here, I was taking an inventory on grass, just looking around at my field, seeing how tall my grass is right now, taking a look at the weed pressure on my field. I've been seeing a lot of broadleaf plants like this right here. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna make sure that it ain't a poison oak or poison ivy. I know I got some kind of a poisonous plant here that I'm super allergic to, and that if I touch it, I get a real bad hives. I start getting super itchy, and I start getting a rash. So yep, I'm gonna make sure it ain't that, but I don't think it's that. But yep, I got a lot of mare's tail on my field right now, a lot of horse tail, and a lot of sunflower. I'm starting to see sunflower come up. I'm starting to see a lot of mare's tail come up. Mare's tail is one of them weeds that when it bolts, it gets real tall, and it spreads real fast. So mare's tail, once it shows up on a field, about 3 months later, that field will be covered in it. It'll have gone to seed and thrown seed everywhere, and it'll just be everywhere. So, well, big plan for this grass is still to big plan for this grass right now is I'm just gonna till it in to add organic matter to this field, to add fertilizer back into this field, and then just drill a seed over on top of it. But I always make sure to add a little bit of extra fertilizer on this portion of the field, because the cattle really like being over here, and so they spend a lot of time over here. And so this grass, you know, this grass on this part of the field is also a little bit of a ditch right here, and so a lot of water collects over here. So there's a lot of water that sits here. There's also a bit of shade throughout the day because of these trees. So this grass here grows extremely well. The cattle are eating it. The cattle are obviously eating it because I can see that they've been eating it, because they've been chewing on the stems. You see, the stems don't look like this, or grass blades, they don't look like this, where it's just got the tips of them cut off like that. That's signs of grazing pressure. So cattle have been grazing this, and this grass is probably still 7 or 8 inches tall. Grass is still probably I don't know, and probably 7 8 inches tall across the whole field, or across this back portion of the field right here. I know on camera it don't look very tall, but get up close to it and take a look at it, and I mean, it's just, I mean, I can just walk through this whole field, and I mean, it's just on camera, it's hard to tell how tall grass is on camera, but just stick my hand up next to it and pop it up, and it's gonna be 7 8 inches tall. And it's just all around the whole back portion of this field is 7 8 inches tall. And so the cattle have been grazing it. It's still growing in way faster than these cattle can eat it, just because weather conditions have been good in this particular area. I throw a little bit of extra fertilizer over here, just because I know that the cattle just they like to hang out in this spot. And so, yep, and it's a good little spot to grow grass in. But I may have to come through here and spray it with a 2,4-D or so, or yeah, 2,4-D is usually what I use, or Duracore. I use Duracore as well. If I got cattle grazing the pasture that I want to get rid of broadleaf plants on, I spray it with Duracore. Duracore is real good, but it burns the plants up real slow. It takes a long time for it to work, but it does work very well. Pretty soon here, later today or so, I'm going to be sticking the sprayer on my tractor. I'm gonna have the sprayer on my tractor, so when I have the sprayer on my tractor, I'll mix up some Duracore. Duracore, it ain't too expensive. That's the thing about Duracore. Duracore, it's safe to spray on plants. It's like got the label on it to spray on plants that cattle are grazing. 2,4-D, the cattle have to be taken off the plants for a while, according to the label, from my understanding. But Duracore, it can be sprayed on a field that cattle are grazing. And so I'm gonna have to just I'm actually gonna have to come through this back area, because I don't know what this plant is, but it's the only thing growing back here right now, and it's definitely a broadleaf. So I'm gonna have to come through here with a tank of Duracore once I get my once I get the once I get that sprayer put on my tractor and I get some Duracore mixed into it. I'll come back here and I'll spray this whole area. But this grass right here, this is a grass. I'm actually surprised I don't see a but this is what a bolting grass looks like. So this grass, I know that it's like on camera, it looks real cool. It's like, oh, this grass looks so good. But this grass, it ain't as good as something like this. Like the other grass that's just 6-7 inches tall. This grass, this grass right here is, even though it's smaller, this grass is actually more nutritious than this grass right here. This grass right here, you see this right here, this is that little leaf that I'm talking about. I've been talking about in the videos, but this is that little leaf. The plant will stick this thing out. See how it looks different? It looks almost like a stem, but it ain't like a grass blade. But it's this right here. When the plants stick this out, they're about to seed, so they're bolting, and so they're about to put on seed. And so when the grass puts this little blade on, it's usually like if I was gonna cut this for hay, and my plants were starting to do this right here, I would get that hay cut, because well, soon as this gets a little seed head on it, soon as this grass bunch gets a seed head on it, the quality of the grass in terms of like protein and digestibility just falls off of a cliff. And so grass like this, it looks real cool on camera, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much grass. But I mean, if I was gonna feed stock cattle on it, it would be a horrible idea. Could I feed larger steers and like 7-8 weight steers and mama cows on it? Sure, I probably could, but I can't raise stocker cattle, lightweight stocker cattle, up until they're about 4 or 5 weight. Their diet is incredibly important, because they don't have the capacity to just eat large volumes of food, because their guts haven't been developed to that size yet. And so it's stocker cattle, the grass should look more like this right here. When raising stocker cattle, this grass is actually a little bit too hot. I've been actually realizing that that the stocker cattle are bomb squatting. They're bloating up real bad. I'm seeing bloat on them, some real bad. I'm seeing a lot of diarrhea, a good bit of diarrhea. I got probably a handful of animals out there having diarrhea. And so I would actually say about a half of the grass should look like this. Half to maybe 2/3 of grass should look like this, and then a third of the field should look like that bolting grass. So that would give them a mix of some really high digestible grass with a low digestible grass. A low digestible grass is more like a roughage product, so it adds volume to their intestinal to their stomach fill without putting a whole bunch of protein in them, or yep, it'll help them clear up on that diarrhea. But yep, grass, I know I've been saying well, talking about grass. When the grass reaches this stage, the digestibility falls off, and it puts out a little leaf that when it sticks that leaf up in the air, the grass will start bolting. Oh, but here's a seed head right here. This is a seed head right here. So you see how this is that twig looking thing, that twig looking portion of the grass. And see, this is what it looks like when it's developed. It's got that seed head on it. And so you see how this is all part of that grass. This is just well, I'll actually pull this out the ground. I'm gonna leave it alone. But this is this is all this grass right here. But this grass, when it puts on this, at first it'll look like this right here. You see this twig? It doesn't have a seed head on it. At first it'll look like this, but when it develops, it'll look like this. So when it starts putting on this twig, sort of a leaf. I don't know if this is a leaf technically, or what this is, but or a stem, or I don't know what it is, but I think it's a leaf. But when it puts on this leaf, it'll turn into this eventually. And when the grass starts doing this, the digestibility of the grass starts going down. And so if a bovine is having a lot of diarrhea, it's actually and it's from protein, or they're bloating real hard from eating too much protein. Waiting until the grass hits this stage, or a portion of the grass hits this stage, is a good idea, because it'll drop the digestibility of the grass. It will also drop the protein content of the grass. And by the time it hits this stage, the quality of that grass, the grass is going to look real good, because it's going to be bolting, and it's going to grow like these huge, like it's going to grow like this, where it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much grass everywhere. But the grass, it ain't that good. In terms of actual nutritional content for cattle, for certain cattle, it may be good, but for lightweight stocker calves, it's not good. Well, for lightweight stocker calves, well, I ain't gonna say it's not good, right? Having a portion of the field like that is perfectly fine. Actually, my field, it would have been a little bit better if a larger portion of like I would say about 95% of my grass right now is like this right now, where it doesn't have that little seed leaf on it yet. It doesn't have, or I mean, I guess there's one right here, but a 95% of my field looks like this, where it just doesn't have that little seed leaf on it yet, and it's just very, very, very fresh, early vegetative grass, and it's wet too. And so my cattle are having diarrhea. And yesterday I saw one of my animals having real bad bloat. He looked fine this morning, but yep, having a field that's probably, I would say, when I walk around the field, I should be like, oh, about 25% of my grass has put on that seed leaf is where I would start personally. Like if I was going to systematically look to get rid of the diarrhea in my cattle, systematically look into getting rid of the bloat in my cattle, I would start at about 25% of that of my grass having that seed leaf, and then let the animals graze it. But I still need to put up that cross fence before I can really pull the animals off of the grass. And when the weather's good and the grass is growing like this, the cattle and they aren't held back from eating the grass, they're just going to eat as much as they want. They're going to eat until their guts are just completely full on grass. So I need to put up that cross fence if I'm going to do it. I did spray that front field with glyphosate. The sod up on that front field, I got that sprayed with glyphosate yesterday. I had glyphosate mixed in a tank on a backpack sprayer that I was out spraying my fence line with. So I had some glyphosate solution left over, so I sprayed the sod on my front field. Glyphosate, it isn't pre-emergent, so it's a contact kill. So when it comes in contact with plant matter, it'll burn the plant matter away. It'll kill the plant matter, only that it comes into contact with. And so like if I was gonna spray or if I was gonna put a pre-emergent something that's going to suppress the weeds from coming back in, I would use something like dicamba. But dicamba, well, I know that there's a lot of going on with dicamba for the past few years about it about it vaporizing and drifting onto other fields. So got to be very careful with it. The cool thing I like about dicamba is that I can buy it I can buy it as a product that is already put on fertilizer. And so I'll spray the field first with something like before I planted this field, I sprayed it with man, still got bones on this field, but yeah, when before I planted this field, the grass right here, I sprayed it with a Duracore as well as 2,4-D. And then I put dicamba on it. So I covered every square inch of this this field with herbicide. I burned the plant material away. I made sure to cover the whole field with herbicide. And then I had a dirt patch. And then I put the seed on it, and that's why the field looks this good. And then I put fertilizer on it, and that's why the field looks this good. But that was about 7 months ago. So if I'm gonna make the field look good again, I need to put some broadleaf herbicide on it. So, but I'm already kind of at a point where I need to be plowing this field under. I need to plow this field over to plant the pearl millet on it, because here in about 2 months, this grass is gonna die. This ryegrass, it ain't gonna grow anymore when it's over 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Then when it hits about over 90, I would guess about 90, 95, it'll actually start to die. And so here in a couple of months, this field is just gonna be dead grass, due to just it being what it is, right? Ryegrass, it only grows in the cool weather. And so I'm gonna plow this field up. You know, I've been thinking about this. I've thought about it a few times right now, but with that money that I got from the escrow check, I'm thinking I may use that money to put up the cross fence on this property. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. One big reason that I want to put that cross fence up on this property is because if I plow this field under and it's warm outside, like warm enough for me to plant pearl millet, it needs to be over 85. Let's say it's over 85, right? And then one day it just gets kind of hot and it gets over 95, and that pearl millet is 6 inches, 1 foot tall, and the cattle go out to graze it and they get a whole bunch of protein, and suddenly the temperature goes up by 10-15 degrees on one day because there's a little bit of a heat wave. My cattle could bloat and die. If it's hot outside and the cattle start bloating, it's a much more severe of a problem than when the cattle are bloating and it's cool outside. And so I'm like, man, maybe I should put up that cross fence with the money that I have right now, so that I can pull the cattle off of the pearl millet when it's growing in the summertime, so that I don't risk having animals practically explode like a balloon. Like, I don't want them blowing up like a balloon. I've had to stick a needle in an animal that I've had to puncture their rumen wall with the needle. It literally well, I mean, there's a lot of videos on the internet about that show people doing this, but you can actually hear the gas coming out of their gut. I mean, they literally swell up like a balloon. And I had one animal that was dying from bloat, and she unfortunately still died. I tried to save her. I stuck a needle in her rumen and punctured her rumen to get the gas out, but she still died. But bloat can be a serious problem, and bloat, once it happens, it usually happens so rapidly. The gas usually accumulates so rapidly that I won't see it in time to save the animal usually. Once the bloat starts happening and the animal collapses, usually within about 10 minutes they'll die. And so 10-15 minutes, it could be that soon, that depending on how rapidly the gas is accumulating, they'll die very quickly because they die from suffocation. And so I'm like, man, maybe I should put that cross fence up on the front property before I plant the pearl millet, so that I can keep the cattle off of the pearl millet, feed them with the Sudan grass that's coming in on the front for a couple of weeks while the pearl millet establishes. And then I could, you know, and then if it honestly came down to it, I could I could even just cut the pearl millet for the cattle and let them and take the food up to them. But well, I mean, I like to let cattle walk around. That's one of my things, is that I don't like to keep cattle on a dirt patch. But I mean, I'll have to see. If hay's real expensive, I mean, and it ain't like they're gonna be shoulder to shoulder up there. I mean, they're gonna have plenty of room to walk around. They're just not gonna have a bunch of grass to walk around on. But if they stomp on pearl millet, the pearl millet's a real tall grass, so as they walk around on the pearl millet, they'll stomp it down. Same with the Sudan grass, and so a lot of it will go to waste. And so I'm like, man, well, I mean, if I get a real good hay for them, like if I cut that pearl millet and I cut the Sudan grass for them and I bale it up for them and I make sure that it's at a good stage of development and I feed it to them as hay, or I change that, I go and sell the hay and I buy grain with it, they won't mind. In all honesty, these cattle, if I put a bale of hay in front of them, a good bale of hay in front of them, they're not gonna move from the hay until the hay is gone. So I'll have to see what I'm gonna do. I'll have to see. But all right, that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.